We begin Africa Live in Sudan, where fighting continues to rage on between the army and a rival paramilitary group. Battles have continued around the armed forces headquarters, the airport, as well as the adjacent city of Bahri. The violence continued after 3 ceasefire attempts failed. Foreign evacuations are currently underway. The health ministry on Sunday said that at least 420 people had been killed and 3,700 injured since the fighting broke out on April the 15th. Food supplies and water are running critically low, with millions of residents in Khartoum. The airport and hospitals in the capital remain closed. Websites and apps have now sprung up to mobilize medical help and find basic supplies. Chamgono has the details.
With most of Khartoum's hospitals shut down and the few still open offering only limited services, medical needs have been intense. In response to the situation, web developers and dozens of doctors from around the world have signed up to volunteer time to assist and advise Sudanese in urgent need.
When the crisis and the war started in Sudan, people were shocked, so they didn't know what to do. People started sharing what they need on social media networks, and there are others who have available supplies that they share too. I had this idea to group all these cases in one place, either those who have needs or those who can offer supplies. I had a personal website, and I turned it into a platform dedicated for publishing calls of needs and announcements of supplies.
According to Adel, most of the needs are medical due to the lack of hospital services and the fact that people cannot reach hospitals. At the heart of the fighting, 25-year-old Dr. Makram Walid has built a 1,200-strong WhatsApp community split into groups for the Khartoum's different districts for people to share information about supplies of basics.
We don't have like money-wise or financial aid, but we're just trying to like ease the communication between people. So I'm trying to like link people together. So without even financial aid, you get me? So that's basically the idea.
Walid said the biggest requirement for most people was drinking water. But there are also a lot of requests for medicines, particularly for diabetes and blood pressure. Dr. Base is another health app, trying to ease communication between people and aiding those impacted by violence. The app is run by Ahmed Mujaba, who lives in Canada.
Our goal is to try to help in any way that we could, Dr. Base is one tool that we have right now. And so I just want to let people know that this is available for them if they want to use it. Hopefully they don't need to.
Before the fighting, the app was aimed at helping Sudanese deal with the existing problems linked to poverty. Chamgono, CGTN.
Well, we're now joined by our reporter Adel Muhui, who is in Cairo. Meanwhile, our correspondent Patrick Ayet is in Juba, South Sudan. Thank you so much to you both for joining us on Africa Live. Let's begin with you, Patrick, in Juba. Many are still fleeing across the borders. What are you hearing from where you are, Patrick, and how are they being assisted?
Yes, Hannah, what we are hearing is that some Sudanese people have already crossed into South Sudan. That's according to the International Organization for Migration, that is saying at least 2,000 Sudanese have already officially been registered, and those who have crossed as refugees to South Sudan. Yesterday in the evening, or on Sunday evening, a number of them crossed to northern Barghazal, that is in the north of South Sudan, and those people who came, they say majority were South Sudanese, but of course also mixed with Sudanese who are in Sudan, and they have crossed. These people have come by road, they found their way, and they managed to get to South Sudan. And then also the Minister for Foreign Affairs for South Sudan on Sunday said that there is a large group that is at the border, and he says that that group comprises of other nationalities, not only Sudanese, but other nationalities. He was not specific on who are those, but he said that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is informing the various ministries in South Sudan of those nationalities so that arrangement could be made to evacuate them from the border. So he also says that South Sudan is preparing for a possible influx of Sudanese refugees into the country.
Otto, let's come to you in Cairo. Egypt is pulling out over 400 evacuees. What more can you tell us from where you are?
Well, the Egyptian government, foreign ministry in specific, has announced a plan to evacuate all its citizens in Sudan. According to the Egyptian foreign ministry, there are about a little over 10,000 Egyptians in Sudan in several states within the country. And according to instructions from the government, it has given directives for citizens to contact the local, the embassy and the consulates. Egypt has 3 diplomatic missions in Sudan, an embassy in Khartoum and 2 consulates in 2 other states. So the main directives were for Egyptians to communicate with the consulates, and also at the same time it has given directives for Egyptians in Khartoum to remain as they are, as it is, according to the foreign ministry's evaluation, too dangerous to move at the current stage. So it requested Egyptians there to stay still. And up till now, the first wave of Egyptians to come to Egypt started earlier this morning with about 436 Egyptians crossing the southern border from Sudan into Egypt. We still don't know any official location for them and their whereabouts and when they will be home and what is the process for them to reintegrate into the Egyptian society and go to their homes. But this is just the first of what we expect to be several waves of transportation until, according to the Egyptian Foreign Ministry, all of the more than 10,000 Egyptians are back home safely.
Well, Patrick, let's bring it back to you. The AU is asking neighboring countries to cooperate with each other in helping refugees. There's still so many African countries, Patrick, that haven't announced any plans yet on evacuation. What can we expect?
Yeah, we actually have this morning seen a letter written by Ghana government saying that they are ready to also evacuate their nationals from Sudan. However, if you look at the region, for example, the East African region or the Intergovernmental Authority on Development in the Horn of Africa, I think there is a way in which they want to do a coordinated move, because they had an IGAD summit, that is the meeting of heads of state and government, virtually, and agreed that the president of South Sudan, the president of Kenya and Djibouti go to Sudan as soon as possible. So they are still not looking at really evacuating their nationals at the time being. They are actually looking at entering Sudan and beginning some form of mediation. And also here, the government has said, especially in South Sudan, that South Sudanese, for example, are very many in Sudan. The estimate is that there are about 750,000 South Sudanese, almost 1 million, scattered across Sudan. So if they want to evacuate, that will be a very, very difficult operation. So the hope for many Africans is that the problem is resolved. And also there are many countries that are waiting for a directive from the African Union to hear what African Union says before they start making statements of either trying to evacuate their nationals or take any action, Hannah.
Well, Adil, there are some nations like Turkey and Nigeria which have decided to evacuate by road from Khartoum through relatively calmer regions like Madani and Al Jazeera state. How are they expected to navigate through the uncertainties of security along such routes, Adil?
Well, it seems, Hannah, that beyond Khartoum and the regions where the fighting is ongoing, it is more or less calm, and mobilization of people and goods also are quite easy to handle. And this is actually the same policy that the Egyptian government has also followed, giving directives to people inside Khartoum to stay while those who manage to reach other calmer region can move ahead. But at the same time, security preparations are quite essential. Most of the evacuations that have so far happened under the radar. All nations who managed to get out their citizens from Sudan only made the announcement after the citizens were out. No one wants the convoys or whatever preparations they have on the ground to be announced, which may give a chance for any armed group that want to intervene with the safety of their own citizens. So as long as there is a strict security preparation for it, it is manageable. However, it is a very long way. Sudan is a very big country, and distances from the center of Sudan to the borders, east, north, south, or west, could vary from just a few hundreds of kilometers up to 1,000 kilometers to certain distances. So it's a very long drive. It also doesn't have a lot of facilities, which means that stopping in the middle or breaks may not be an option for most trips from the center of Sudan to the border. So extreme cautions are there, but it is of course a risk to have people, a lot of numbers in roads for a long time, and therefore most of the people who have evacuated so far, they've either chosen military aircrafts or transportation to the nearest port at the Red Sea, and from there vessels would take the citizens to the nearest border, whether that it's in Saudi Arabia, South Sudan, Egypt, or even with Sudan's western neighbors as well.